Loneliness is power because, as Machiavelli would argue, it strips away illusions, silences the crowd, and forges the kind of ruthless independence, clarity, and unshakable will that no companionship or applause can ever grant. For when a man is alone, he sees the world with the raw eyes of necessity, unclouded by the emotions and expectations of others, and in that clarity he finds the courage to stand apart, to resist manipulation, and to cultivate the inner strength that makes him ungovernable by the opinions of the weak. And Machiavelli teaches us that the true ruler is not one who constantly seeks validation, but one who can stand solitary, enduring criticism, exile, or betrayal without crumbling. For solitude becomes the crucible of resilience where the mind is hardened, the spirit disciplined, and ambition purified of all distractions. And when you embrace loneliness not as a curse but as an instrument of growth, you begin to embody the very qualities Machiavelli admired in princes who ruled, not by chance, but by their own force of will. Because it is in the absence of constant companionship that cunning is sharpened, patience is deepened, and foresight is cultivated, as the man who cannot be alone is forever a slave to the comfort of company, while the man who masters solitude commands himself and therefore commands destiny. And Machiavelli would say that crowds are fickle, friends are temporary, allies are opportunistic, but the discipline forged in loneliness is enduring, for when stripped of all external voices, you discover the voice of strategy, a voice that does not tremble under pressure, a voice that does not waver when others retreat, a voice that whispers the cold calculations of survival and success. And in this way loneliness becomes a weapon, invisible yet sharper than steel, because it grants independence from the chains of approval, and it is this independence that makes one untouchable by the manipulations of rivals or the deceit of flatterers. Since a solitary man is not easily swayed, he is not desperate for acceptance. He is not enticed by the shallow promises of the crowd, but he is steady, calculating, and prepared to act alone when necessary. And this, Machiavelli would insist, is the foundation of real power, because to govern others you must first govern yourself. And self-mastery is born not in the comfort of applause but in the silence of solitude. And when a man is forced into loneliness, he learns to endure the weight of his own mind, to confront his weaknesses without escape, to sharpen his will against despair, and to rise from that silence with a confidence that cannot be shaken by betrayal or abandonment, because he has already faced the void and conquered it. And what can the world threaten him with if he has already proven that he can walk alone without fear? And in this way loneliness transforms from a burden into sovereignty, a hidden empire of strength that no enemy can steal. Because unlike wealth or allies or temporary glory, it cannot be taken away. It lives inside the one who has claimed it. And Machiavelli would remind us that the strongest rulers were often those who could endure isolation, those who could be hated, feared, or abandoned, yet still hold firm. Because the crowd is unstable, but the solitary man is unshakable. And while loneliness terrifies the weak, it empowers the strong, for it removes the false comfort of companionship and forces you to rely on nothing but your own reason, your own resolve, and your own vision. And this reliance breeds a kind of ruthless independence that Machiavelli admired, because only those who depend on no one can truly rise above everyone. And when you think of power in its purest form, it is not measured by the number of hands that applaud you, but by the ability to act decisively when all applause has faded. And only loneliness can prepare you for that test, because only in loneliness do you learn that survival, mastery, and greatness are not collective achievements but personal victories. And Machiavelli would say that fortune favors those who are ready to seize opportunity alone, not those who wait for the approval of others. And solitude is where readiness is born, because it disciplines the mind to see through illusion. It teaches you that alliances may crumble and support may vanish, but strategy and strength are eternal within you. And the man who fears loneliness is doomed to be a reed, bending with the wind of opinion, while the man who embraces loneliness is the stone, enduring, immovable, and sovereign. And though the path of solitude is harsh, it is also liberating, because once you master it, you are free from the chains of needing others, free from the slavery of their judgments, and free to act with the kind of decisive, fearless independence that Machiavelli called virtù, the rare quality that separates rulers from the ruled. And in the end, loneliness is not the absence of power, but the very soil from which it grows. Because only in loneliness do you discover the strength to stand without support, the clarity to see without deception, and the will to act without hesitation. And in that discovery lies the ultimate truth Machiavelli would whisper, that loneliness is not weakness, it is sovereignty. and the one who masters it has already mastered the essence of power. For history itself confirms this lesson in the lives of those who rose from exile, from imprisonment, from betrayal, and found within their isolation a deeper reservoir of strength. Because Machiavelli observed that men like Cesare Borgia, though abandoned by allies, remained formidable through sheer personal will, and it is this ability to stand when all others fall away that marks the truly powerful. For when you rely too heavily on others, your power is borrowed, conditional, fragile, but when you rely on solitude to forge your will, your power is absolute, intrinsic, and enduring, and loneliness thus becomes the test of rulers, thinkers, and conquerors, because in solitude you cannot deceive yourself. In solitude you cannot hide behind the noise of flattery. In solitude you either break or you are remade. And Machiavelli would insist that those who are remade become dangerous, because they learn that their survival depends not on favor but on foresight, not on crowds but on calculation, not on comfort but on cold endurance. And this mindset creates a ruler who cannot be swayed by softness, who cannot be broken by exile, and who cannot be undone by the absence of applause, for his strength is self-contained, drawn from the silence of his own mind, and the crowd will always fear such a man, because he does not need them. And power always belongs to the one who needs least, and loneliness is the discipline of needing nothing except your own will, and this discipline breeds the kind of autonomy Machiavelli equated with sovereignty, because the prince who can stand alone is the prince who can outlast betrayal, outthink rivals, and outmaneuver the shifting tides of fortune. And so the paradox is revealed, that what the world sees as weakness, the ability to endure being alone, is in fact the foundation of the most unassailable strength. For the crowd is addicted to noise, comfort, and companionship, but the ruler is addicted only to strategy and survival, and it is in loneliness that he sharpens both, because every hour in silence is an hour of mastery. Every day without support is a day of resilience. Every night without applause is a night of clarity. And in this way, loneliness ceases to be emptiness and becomes energy. It ceases to be isolation and becomes initiation. And in the Machiavellian sense, it ceases to be despair and becomes dominion. The dominion of a man who can say to himself, I can stand alone, I can think alone, I can rule alone, and therefore I am untouchable.